Dear friends, a warm hello from me at a new edition of my podcast, CQ World Stories with Felice Yankios Cartoon Mike Golf India. Today's edition brings you an enthusiastic and joyful moment. I have invited a young lady from Bar Harbor, Maine, United States of America, Marion, Whiskey One Golf Romeo Lima, or as she calls herself on her Facebook page, Maine Girl. Right after she asked me to be friends on Facebook, I was so curious. I started to look at her posts, and all of a sudden, I felt joy, I felt enthusiasm, I felt passion, and her wonderful way to share her passion with all of us. So, because probably there are so many that might feel inspired on what she thinks and do within this passion, I said, let's turn this opportunity into something else. And here we are. I have invited her to know her better. And I asked her to do this wonderful conversation that will start in an instant. Just to say that in the core of this passion for amateur radio activity, it has to be something which is directly related to her vision on this passion. I just mentioned some attributes earlier, and if we agree that as long as we remain stick to those attributes, we find joy, we find motivation, and we find everything to remain connected to this wonderful world. And each time we will remember this, we contribute to the essence of the radio waves and to the beauty of our connections. And dear friends, this is the framework I invite you to embrace for this conversation. And I also invite you to stay with us until the end because it's worth it. Because I have in front of me a very, very, very pleasant woman. And without any further delay, I will say, dear Marion, thank you so much for being here and for accepting this conversation on your passion for amateur radio.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for having me. I'm fairly new to the ham radio community. I became active in January of 2024, so I'm starting my third year. And there are so many things about ham radio that I love, but at the very top is the community. And I find that the community, it's an opportunity to share kindness. It's an opportunity to share our stories. It's an opportunity to share our moments in the day. And I believe that life is lived in those moments. So often we look for the big wonderful things in life, and they are big and wonderful. But in that the beautiful sunset, the flower that just bloomed, that a QSO contact can be like that. It can be almost a mental flower in your day. And so I think the community has been the biggest surprise for me in terms of getting into ham radio, that I knew there were technical challenges, and I knew there were etiquettes and ways to say things and ways to do things. But once I got into it, the community to me is what we ought to be talking about. The community is just vibrant and engaging and inviting. And so thank you for inviting me here. Um, it's social media at its best when we find someone like this, and we say, you know, this is a person of kindness. This is a person of warmth, and I want to get to know this person better. And so, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure to know people like you. And as long as you vibrate with everything that you just mentioned, what better option could I have had when I looked at your profile, your Facebook profile, and when I saw your photos, in an instant, I said that I'm looking at a happy woman which succeeds to create a world of her own. but as you said, within a community, a part of something bigger. And I saw that with the help of radio waves that you are using it at your freedom, at your, I don't know, in space and time that you allow yourself to be. And with the ham radio friends that you have discovered along the way, you have created a very beautiful place for yourself and for other people which are around you.
Mm.
And this is something amazing. And of course, that I started to ask myself questions about you, and I was curious to know more about your story. So, yes, I have invited you to have this wonderful conversation. And once again, I really appreciate your openness to share your story with us. And you said previously that you have discovered this passion pretty recent.
Mhm.
How did it happen? And why a little probably for some of us this secondary question can come, why a little late, why not earlier?
Well, I first learned about ham radio in the 1980s when I met this young man who I thought was very interesting. And we were in the state of Ohio, where they have the largest ham radio convention in the United States. And so when I met Stan and we started to do things together, he said, "Yeah, I'm very interested in ham radio. Why don't you come to this convention with me?" And I didn't see very many women there, to be honest. I wasn't technical. I spent my career in psychology. I spent my career talking and not so much with technical things. So I just didn't see that I had a place there, but I could tell it was important to him. And I was growing fonder and fonder of him. So I decided to get my ham radio license. So I've actually had a license since 1991 or 92. I can't
Oh,
remember. And
what a coincidence! What a coincidence! Is pretty much the same with me.
so I had the license and he kept it up. Excuse me. He kept it up. He kept it current, and I forgot about it. I got busy in my career. I'm a retired college professor in psychology, and so I got busy with that. And he kept going with ham radio as a hobby as he had time. And honestly, I just thought it was for older men, and I thought it's great that he has that. He enjoys it. He can have it. I retired from teaching after 30 years in 2020, and I pursued some other interests that I have. And one of the courses that I taught, one of my specialties is successful aging. Teaching aging and gerontology, their students took lots of courses on what can go wrong as you get older. And I wanted to look at what can go right as you get older. And so I felt like I wasn't using my brain enough. And I started looking at apps that you can get for your devices to give your brain some exercise. And I realized that learning Morse code really kind of ticked all those boxes. We know from research that if you want to keep your brain active and alive, you need to do difficult memory things and you need to
Correct.
think fast. And Morse code did that. So I thought, well, I'm going to start learning Morse code. And my husband said, well, there's a place where you can use that. And we started watching a YouTube series that was for new CW operators. And I could identify with these people. It was the first time that I felt like I could identify. It's like they're saying things that I've been thinking just today. And so then my husband said, well, this person has his own YouTube channel. Maybe you would like that. And as I started exploring these YouTubes, about the same time, I started going with my husband to our club meetings. And I found several women there and everyone was so welcoming. So between the YouTube community and the local community and learning Morse code, I decided, you know what? I'm only going to know about this when I jump in. I'm not going to know until I try it. And so I decided in January of 2024, this is it.
Wow.
I'm diving in. And and I tried everything, and my interests have changed over these almost 2.5 years. But like I s
Okay, and we will come back with questions on details about what
Okay.
you choose, what you prefer. Since you belong to this huge community of amateur radio people from United States, which is the largest one,
Mhm.
we must admit that you are a huge community. Um, I believe the number of women increased since you started, and you didn't see many women
Right.
present at that convention.
Yes.
And probably the number of women is also big today.
Mhm.
And you can tell us if it is like that or not. How easy it is? I have this question because different countries differ, different legislations. So how easy it is to for someone outside of United States to understand how hard or easy it is for you to become an amateur radio operator, and how much time it. You said something previously about the fact that you had the license since 1991. How much time did you prepare for that first step?
I honestly don't remember. To I honestly don't remember. But in the United States, we have 3 levels of licenses. And the first level, each level gets harder. Each level is a longer test. Each level is a little more involved. And so it takes time. I have all 3. I've upgraded to the top license. And I would say I spent several months, probably not a year, maybe half a year studying, and the exams are challenging. I will say that. However, at the same time, there are many, many places to find help. There are many apps for your phone where you can quiz yourself. There are online classes. If you're part of a club, many times they'll have classes and mentors. So it would be if you weren't a technical person and you're trying to do it in isolation, you would really have to go to YouTube's, I think, for understanding. And maybe some online classes would really help. Excuse me. I would say that, you learn some and you memorize some.
Sure,
And some of the things on the license are things that you don't really understand until you use them.
correct.
And so they are challenging, but there are helps. There's a particular group called the YLRL, Young Ladies Radio League, and it is an international group. It's primarily U.S. and Canada, but there's 100 or so members from around the world, and they will let you know if there are women only classes, and so we're starting to see that now. If women feel like in a group of men I don't wanna be the one asking the stupid question, that there are women's study groups as well. So it's hard, but if you reach out, there's a lot of support.
Yes, and I think this is something that must happen within your local club. And I have
Yeah.
seen photos describing the ambience, describing the connection between you and the
Mhm,
other women that were around you. And I have seen some recent photos of you where you were in a very nice role of presenter while having your symposium.
mhm.
And how did they choose to um, ask you that? And how did you feel being like that? And what did they say after you finished your entire work?
Well, one of the things that I love about my club is that they are very open, very welcoming. There are women in leadership positions, and they truly want to embrace new hams, new operators. And so when I joined the group, I wanted to contribute in some way. And I didn't have the technical expertise to really contribute much. So I said, I'm a retired professor. Maybe I can present about something. And they were, sure, go ahead. So I did a program on what it's like to be new because most of these people in the room had been ham radio operators for a really long time. And so I just explained about how overwhelming some of these things can be and things that I was learning about that I didn't know existed, and just sort of reminded them of what it's like when you're hearing all these things for the first time. And they seem to enjoy it. And so they've been very good about and they do this with everyone, not just me, finding what you're good at and finding a role for you. So, for example, I like to write. Having an academic background, writing was a lot of what I did. And so I'm the primary blogger for our website. So I like to write, and it gives me a way to contribute. A good friend of mine who is in some of the pictures is a retired nurse. Excuse me. And so they said, well, there's emergency communications, and there are organizations where you can help through radio communications, doing
Exactly.
the important things that you were doing similar to your nursing. And so she went off in that direction. And so my club is very good about finding your talents and finding ways for you to use them. And I think there's a good lesson to be learned there. That when someone is new, they want to be a part of the group, but they don't have the ham radio experience to contribute. So what do they have to contribute? One of our newest ham radio operators, when we had this big event we call Field Day, where we operate in a field for 24 hours, he was very new and kind of shy with the radio, but he likes to grill and cook. So he cooked breakfast for everyone, and I think there's a lesson there in finding out what people where their talents, where their interests are, and how you can get them involved as they are learning how to use the radio and finding their passions in amateur radio.
What you just said describes a wonderful perspective on um, letting aside some of the mental barriers, because there are also radio clubs where people are just sharing technical information, their exclusive ham radio experiences, and probably they miss the chance to really know each other on what they know, on what they love, on other topics, other passions. And what you said is wonderful, because if someone listens, and I hope it listens very well, um, maybe it can bring a change at a bigger scale, to understand that, first of all, we are humans in this endeavor,
Mhm.
and we have emotions, and we like to think and say things that might improve this environment. By the way, it's exactly what we are trying to do within this podcast, because it's not just about what we do as ham radio operators. We try to know each other better, to exchange emotions, to exchange vibrations, and this is absolutely great. And an extra question also about your radio club, because I have seen, and you just mentioned that you have wonderful colleagues, women there. Um, how powerful is your presence in your radio club in the relationship with your male colleagues? Do they recognize your power?
I think they do. I think they do. You're asking me to acknowledge the power that I have, and I will accept that. I in all of my careers, in my life, I felt like I've been sort of a connector person. And I would do this with my students at the university. If they needed something that I didn't know how to fix, but I knew who did, it felt very good to be able to send them. And I do a lot of that in my club informally. Someone is interested in something and I know someone else knows a lot about it. I will make sure that they talk to each other, and then I bow out. Um, I'm vice president of our club, and the treasurer is a woman. I have There are two women I call radio sisters that you'll see a lot in the photos,
Yes.
and one is the emergency communications person I mentioned, and the other one is the treasurer. And so I think the men have been very welcoming. They're very patient with what I don't know. And so very much taking these teaching moments. There was a time a few months ago that my group meets for coffee. The ones who are available in the mornings meet for coffee every Wednesday, and my husband stayed home. We were having a package delivered, and he stayed home, and I went to have coffee with the club. And people come and go, and people have to leave. And it got down to just four of us. It was me and three men. And again, my husband was at home. And I noticed that we were having conversations about ham radio that were gender blind or gender neutral or whatever term you want to use. I was just another person there talking about ham radio. And I thought, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. And I know because women operators have reached out to me privately from different things that I've done. I know that some women feel those boundaries maybe more than I do. Having a career in an academic setting in the United States,
Sure.
you have to fend for yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I've been trained, I think, through that career to be one who will ask a question or one who will join in a conversation. And I think it's important that all women help each other. And in ham radio, there's not one person that knows everything. There's not one
Of
person
course.
that knows every facet of ham radio. And so I think, as we see another woman finding her passion, but helping her have her voice, being there with her to help her find her voice, I think is very important. My club is amazing, and I will say that I wish it was the standard, but I don't know that it is. There's a Facebook group called Ham Radio Women. It has just shy of 5,000 members. And I always put on there whenever I get to present or do something in my club, how thankful I am for a club that will accept me. And I do this just like a guy would be doing it. And about half the people, women who comment, will say, my club is like that. And about half will say, I've never in my life experienced a club like that. And so I know that I'm in a very blessed situation. I know this is very special. And
Absolutely.
I try
Absolutely.
I try to hold it up as an example. I mentioned the Young Ladies Radio League. They have a newsletter. And myself and my two radio sisters, we always contribute, and we always emphasize how we are interacting with our club, as a way to give ideas and a way to be able a woman to say, look what they did. Can we do this? It gives it some legitimacy, it gives it some power.
Of course.
So my club is awesome. They're just awesome. And I know it's special. I don't take that for granted.
I understand. And probably you agree that the value of a group consists in the value of each individual that forms that group. So
Mhm.
if your club is special, all of you are are
Yeah,
making their contribution to that value. So
right.
yeah, but um, we also reflect in the groups that we are part the who we are, and we bring our own values into that common value. So wonderful, wonderful what you said. I don't think it's everywhere exactly as you said. I think there are some, well, bad experiences
Mhm.
inside many clubs, but probably the presence of very well trained women,
Mm.
as you have in your club, can create a balance
Mhm.
in the radio clubs everywhere. And probably our dear amateur radio male friends should be more careful in opening much more the doors for women to come and to inspire them or to encourage them to come, because we are the balance that is needed everywhere.
Mhm. I agree.
Okay. Um, so you mentioned that this passion really got you,
Mhm.
and that you really spend quite some time in front
Mhm.
of your radio station. And you have sent me uh, wonderful photos with you in front of your radio station, and everyone will see it while we talk. And from all the discussions that I had previously with my guests, um, each of them are more or less inspired to use some modes of communication.
Mhm.
You mentioned that you first learned the Morse code. What came after, and what is your favorite mode of communication today?
Well, so I started learning Morse code, but that takes a while. So I spend probably 10 hours a week, unless it's a special contest weekend, probably about 10 hours a week or so on the radio. But I probably spend that much, if not more, practicing my Morse code. I practice about 30 minutes every day. It's like an instrument. You have to keep it up. You know, you have to keep going with it. Um, and only last fall, I started using Morse code with strangers online. I started making QSOs. So it took me a while to feel comfortable starting from nothing to actually using Morse code on the radio. When I first started, I did some voice communications. And once I learned about FT8 and FT4, that became so much fun because it's simple and yet you reach around the world. And when you're new, there's so much you can learn from watching the screen. You learn, okay, if I see RO, what does that mean? You know, if I see YL, what does that mean? And you learn the etiquette, and it was fun. The first year, I did quite a bit of FT8 and FT4, but I was starting to do more and more voice. And there's something special about hearing a human voice. I still do FT8. I did some this morning. But it's almost like playing solitaire for me. It's
Right,
more of a
right.
zen feel. Whereas when I have a voice communication with someone, and I do a lot of POTA hunting, and I get involved in a lot of contests, which I'd like to talk about, but you share some of your essence with that person. And
Absolutely.
I was mentioning kindness. You know, if someone people will comment on my call sign, "Oh, it's the whiskey one girl," and it makes my day. It just makes my day. I happen to live in a tourist town in Bar Harbor, Maine, and so I will talk to someone and they'll see on their QRZ that I'm in Bar Harbor, and they will say, "Oh, I had a wonderful vacation there." And I will always say, "Well, where did you go?" Because I want them to bring that memory back. That's a happy memory. I went there for my wedding. I went there after my wedding. And I'm like, "Oh, tell me about that." Because it brings that memory back. And now we share. Now we share that memory. Now we're each a facet of that memory. And so voice will always be special for me, because of that personal connection. I'm using Morse code a little bit more now, but code has a very different feel. I like
Right.
puzzles. I will admit that. I word puzzles, card game puzzles. I love puzzles. And so Morse code for me is like a puzzle. Can I figure it out? Can I figure out what they're saying? And can I say something back that they can figure out? and it's a game and it's fun. Um, and that's all I do. I do the Morse code, I do voice, and I do FT8 and FT4. My husband likes RTTY. I haven't gotten into RTTY yet, but he likes that. My club is very involved in nets. And so we participate in a couple of nets. So there's that. But if I think about my most favorite QSOs, there's the sort of technical or the first, my first sideband contact, the first time I was somewhere else and contacted my husband, things like that. My first Morse code contact. But really, my favorite QSOs are the one when I give my call sign and someone says, "Oh, Marion, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, now my day is made." Or
Well, probably this comes from the fact that your academic background has to do with the deepest dimension of a human being, and
mhm,
of course that you are using all your knowledge or all your experience in
mhm,
expanding yourself into this environment,
yeah,
and because you know much better things about humans than most of us, being an expert in psychology, for you it has to be a very natural experience in hearing the vibration of the voices of the people you talk to, as you mentioned before, trying to help them to reactivate some beautiful memories,
mhm,
suddenly changes the biochemistry in that human being, and also uh, through connection, it gives you something back. So, yeah, I totally agree with you that suddenly when you can hear your name and someone, you can hear the smile of that person while he's calling your name, it changes everything in such an easy way.
mhm. It does, and I mentioned Parks on the Air, which is very, very popular in the US to operate from a park, and many women, I think, are discovering ham radio by going with their husband, boyfriend, father, to do these Parks on the Air, and there's a fairly standard protocol that if there are 2 operators there, the first one will talk to you and they'll say, "Please stand by for a second operator." And particularly when it's a woman, it's a male who's doing most of the talking, and a woman who is pretty much just giving her call sign and saying 59. I will deliberately ask her a question. How is the weather there? If nothing else, because I want to try to get her to engage more,
Sure, sure.
and I don't know these women. They may be very shy, they may be very forward, I don't know. But you can kind of get the impression that she's
Right,
just saying a
right,
couple of things and handing the mic back pretty
right.
fast. And I always try to ask a question about something and just to get her to talk. And it's amazing how, she'll answer and she'll say, "Oh, it's nice to talk to another woman." It's like somebody noticed me. Somebody noticed me, and
Yes.
and again, that just makes my day.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful approach. I totally agree and subscribe to this kind of approach because it can become boring if we relate just to weather exchange of
Right.
information and 5-9, and that
Yeah.
it's much too too boring
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
You sent me photos, and I really admire the fact that you have created, you and your husband Stan, probably you did for him as well, all sorts of clothings and uh, with your call signs.
Mhm.
Uh, so this also describes on how deep the passion got into. So tell
We
us few things about your your accessories involved in it.
um, well, I do, like, I enjoy my call sign so much. I had a different call sign, when I first started. and it was November 3 Oscar Alpha, and Oscar Alpha was tough. To say OA or to say Oscar Alpha, people a lot of times you wouldn't quite get it, and I thought, "Oh, this is just a bad pairing. I need something different." So I started in the US, you can apply for a different call sign. And so I started looking at what was available, and I found W1GRL, and I was getting more and more involved in watching YouTubes. I like to comment. Anytime I watch a YouTube, I like to leave a comment, because people put so much time into these, and you just kind of flip past it. And I try not to do that. And I
Yeah.
started calling myself Maine Girl, for Maine, for being in Maine, Maine Girl. And people were starting to sort of remember that, oh, that's Whiskey One Girl, that's the Maine Girl. And so it became kind of a brand. I don't
Right.
think of myself as that trendy, but it's like a brand. And so I thought, well, let's just celebrate it. And so I started putting it on clothes. I have patches on my backpacks. And of course, I had to get things for my husband too. And because we're almost always together. And so it
And his call sign sounds pretty much the same as yours.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, whiskey
Whiskey
one boy.
one boy.
Yeah, yeah, and, we, when we do POTUS together, sometimes I will say, "CQ POTA from Whiskey One Boy and Girl," and, so people they ask if one of us is on, they ask for the other one, but, I enjoy fiber arts, I enjoy sewing, I crocheted those hats, I enjoy doing that. I did some research on the woman who had my call sign prior to me. Fairly tragic ending. She was killed in a car accident. And when I first learned that, my first reaction was, I could have done without knowing that. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard information to take in.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
her name was Audrey Mann, and I try to honor her. And there are times when I'm doing an activity that she will just come to mind, and I will say, "We're doing it, Audrey. We're doing it." And again, I didn't know her at all,
Wow.
but I hope that she would be proud. I hope that she would be proud of W1GRL and the influence, and that it's carrying on. So yes, my call sign, I oh my goodness, there's a contest changes your name and your state. And I find Marion difficult. People don't know how to spell it. With my accent, they think it's Mary Ann. And so I thought, I'm just going with Mary. Nice and easy, very international. A lot of people will recognize that. But in the exchange, so I'm W1GRL, and my exchange is Mary, and I'm in Maine, and the abbreviation is ME. So it's Girl, Marry Me. And I would get these comments of,
Ah.
"Yeah, yeah, it's a girl, marry me." And so I would get these comments of, "Oh, girl, I'm taken." And the first time somebody said that, it I thought, did I do something wrong? Did I miss something?" And someone else said, "I hope you find someone." And I was like, "What? What?"
Very funny.
Yeah, yeah, I've had more fun with that call sign, but I like wearing it. I like being known as an amateur radio operator. I like the conversations that it brings up. Oh, my father used to do that. People still do that, that sort of thing. We also have it as a license plates on our cars, so you see it there
Wow.
too.
Wow.
But
So you took it very seriously and you really created the brand around your call sign and Stan's call sign. I have seen an interesting post, pretty recent, where you were so happy because you found something in a barn, a tower antenna, and some friends helped you to move it from the where it was.
Mhm.
Tell us about this. a very, very special and unique event.
Well, one of our club members who has been a ham radio operator for, I would guess, 60 or 70 years, which tells you something of his age. And he's collected many, many, many towers and radios and things. And he had been watching Stan and I and our progress. And our antennas are good, but they're not great. And in the recent YLWWA, kept trying to reach out to some of the women around the world, and I just couldn't hear them. And I think our friend had been watching us, and he knew he had this 55-foot tower.
Wow.
It collapses down, but it's when it's fully up, it's 55 feet, and he had it just in his barn, and he basically gave it to us. And I was just thrilled beyond belief. From what I understand, having a good antenna up that high is it just is such a difference from a wire going through some trees.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I live on an island. I live on Mount Desert Island, and so the ocean water is very close to me, which helps, with radio waves too.
Right.
So I am so thrilled that I can in next year, I'll be able to hear more of the women on the YLWWA. I'm sure I'll be activating, but there's gonna be some people that I'm going to seek out. It's like, I wanna make sure I have a QSO with you. Um,
Wow, really
there's
great. And you definitely will be more successful because I also have seen, and you sent me some photos that you took part at the Worldwide Young Ladies edition as a first experience for you.
Yes.
How did it work for you? How did you feel being part of such a huge and international team? I have seen some happy photos with you. So tell us few things about this.
Well, it's so many times I'm surprised in ham radio. I think I know how something is going to be, and then it turns out delightfully different, different in a wonderful way. And so I saw a few of my women friends who signed up to be activators. And I was thinking I would participate in it, but I didn't think I would be an activator. And my friends were signing up for it. And I thought, well, if they're going to give it a go, I'll give it a go. And my mind was geared towards how many hours can I give it? Do I want to try using my Morse code in this? Very more technical operator kinds of things. And the organizers set up a WhatsApp group. And of course, I joined. And the WhatsApp group was one of the most amazing parts of the whole experience. And I learned so much. Here in the US, we are so isolated from other cultures. We don't have other cultures that are radically different so close as what you have. And so it's easy to lose sight. You know cultures are different. Of course, you know that intellectually. But in the WhatsApp group, for one thing, women were helping women, which was amazing to see. But also some of the concerns that women had reminded me how in the US I have been privileged to have the status that I have. And there were women that I could hear in their voice and their writing that they didn't feel they had a lot of status. And so for them to be the target, to be the goal, to be the one, the one chased after was just humbling and amazing to them. And it was good for me to see that. It's always good when you realize the gifts you have that maybe you didn't realize you had. And so many of these women I friended on Facebook. I wanted to keep up, and I do keep up with them and their stories. So that was, I think, the most powerful part of it. It was fun to have an excuse to be on the radio that much during that week. And it was fun that I could tell there were certain people who were sort of chasing me. men who anytime I would get on and I would get spotted, there was a routine group that was always there, and that was kind of fun.
I'm really impressed of the fact that your perspective on human relationship, due to your background, your professional background, always brings something different. Because I had another kind of approach on this contest, and it was completely different from you. Now that you have mentioned the cultural environment, the way that you had the chance to listen to other women,
Mhm,
completely changes the way that we can look to the same experience
mhm,
using different insight and different receptors, if you
mhm,
prefer to use this kind of word.
mhm.
Well, you have a tower antenna. You improved your work. You are very active. That means that a lot of energy is ready to be used in the next coming months,
Mhm,
and of course for the next coming years. So yeah, it's just the month of May in 2026. We still have plenty of time this year, but what are your main projects and experiences that you want to live in the next coming months and probably next coming years?
mhm. One of the things that I did from the beginning was to keep a radio journal, and, it could be a journal, a diary. I actually call mine a scrapbook because it's digital, but I keep pictures in it. And I like to write down memorable moments, and also keep a loose track of how many QSOs I made in a month, how many days. If you're familiar with Grid Tracker will give you very nice summary statistics. And so I look at that, on my QRZ, how am I doing? And so for me, just like with contests, I don't enter a contest with this aggressive, I'm going to win it. I make my own goals. I look at what I've done. So this is my third year. So if I've done that contest twice, how did I do? Can I make one more QSO than I did last time? Well, that's a win for me. Then that's my goal. If the propagation is bad, then how much time did I spend in it? And can I spend 15 more minutes trying? So the future, certainly the tower is going to be a big thing when I'm able to contact all these people that I can't hear when I get in my ham alert says they're there and I can't hear them. So that's really important. But really, I'm enjoying the day to day of it. So we just started May. I looked at what I did May a year ago, what I participated in, how I did, and how I did last month, in terms of how active and what happened. And I make some goals, and I kind of go month to month. And so May is fairly quiet in terms of big events, but in June my club has what we call field day, where we set up in a field, and we try to operate for 24 hours, and it's a huge event. We have a lot of things going on, so that'll be the next big thing that I'm involved in. I want to start using my Morse code more, so more CW contacts. But really, I can't say that I have big goals. Things come to me. I didn't
Right.
expect the YLWWA, and that's probably going to be the highlight of my year. You came to me. I hadn't planned this. This just happened. And there's a group I hang out with, the European Ham Radio Show. Things just sort of happened with them, and now I'm an occasional guest there. Discords that you get into, WhatsApps. So I can't say I have big goals. I just keep my eyes open, and wonderful things seem to come my
I think I think somehow you are following the philosophy of finding the pieces of a puzzle to be surprised when you find one and just use it in the right moment at the right place. So you like to be surprised by what's coming next, what's coming tomorrow and to let yourself absorbed
Yes,
into the life
yes.
experience.
Yes, yes. Well, I find I've always been a goal setter, and most of my life has revolved around education or job opportunities that really sort of directed my life. And now I'm blessed to be at a point in my life where I'm healthy and I have some time and I just enjoy what's around the corner. But as I said, we didn't expect to have a 55-foot tower. It just came to us, you
Yeah,
know?
it came.
And
Yeah.
and, uh, so yeah, I'm just I'm enjoying the day to day, and the big things just seem to come.
I love what you said. And it's a very healthy way of living your life. You said so many wonderful things about your own experience, the way your radio club is organized, everything is a huge image of your own presence in this wonderful world. If uh, if you could, if you can extract in a synthesis, a sort of personal view on this huge, friendly, open, and amazing world. How would you describe the world of amateur radio through your eyes?
Well, I it depends on who I'm talking to. If I was talking to someone who didn't know much about ham radio, I would say that the possibilities feel like they are endless in terms of what you might want from it and how you might want to engage it. If I speak from my psychology background, I would say that the ham radio community and operating ham radio gives you intellectual stimulation, it gives you motivation, it gives you a sense of purpose. We play a lot of games, and contests and things, but there's always that emergency communications underlay, right? And so there's a sense of purpose. It gives you that social aspect of being around other people. If you get out and do parks on the air and things, there's that physical aspect. So I think it can be a very healthy lifestyle. Sometimes I will say that ham radio is my lifestyle, because it serves so many of those purposes for me. So I
Wow.
think that the community, the personal challenge, and the opportunity to grow in ways that you've never expected. I'm doing things
Wonderful.
I never ever thought I would do, and understanding things and building things, and so I think it's a community, it's a hobby that can fill a lot of needs for a lot of people.
Well, it was a genuine conversation that we had. I really appreciate your contribution to my podcast. I think what you said highlights so many things that probably many amateur radio operators didn't think of,
Mm.
and probably they will start to see
Mm.
better so many aspects. The social dimension of what this world means being so important. And I so much thank you for the way that you put it. And yes, your contribution seemed to be very important because you help us to see this wonderful world in a very different way. And I think your radio club colleagues are very, very proud of having you there because I'm sure that your presence brings a different, I don't know, a different energy, let's say so. Thank you so much, dear Marian. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much. I want to give so much back to the community, and I appreciate these opportunities to share, and to offer back, and to maybe offer some examples, um, and to
Sure.
share kindness, because I think the community and the kindness just of saying, to someone who's operating in a park, "I'm so glad you're there." Just that opportunity for that kindness can bit by bit build that world that you and
Right,
I
right, right.
so want to see.
You are absolutely right. And God bless you in all your future
Thank
uh, projects and
thank
experiences to do exactly as you say.
thank you.
Well, friends, this was our today's edition. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, maybe even more than me, which will make me even more happier if it is like that. Until next time, as usually, I wish you to stick to your passion. Let it be as bright and as open and as friendly as you want it to be for you, for your soul, for your emotions. Don't give up. Don't close. If something doesn't go exactly as you expected, it will be better next time. And until next time, here on CQ Stories, Word Stories with Felice, Yankee Oscar to my Golf India, I wish you all the best. And let's hope that next time it will be at least as it was today. Thank you all for watching and wish you all the best again. Bye bye and 73 from me.